So this video is for people who have dealt with being in a relationship and have broken up, or are currently in a romantic relationship with somebody who has borderline personality disorder. So borderline personality disorder is a very serious mental illness. So I am talking about the full-blown mental illness, not just somebody who's a little crazy or somebody who's got some emotional issues. I'm talking about the actual borderline personality disorder. If you are somebody who has borderline, this is not meant to destroy you or attack you or demean you. This is for people non-borderlines to understand the disease better and to cope with the after effects. If you are borderline, go get some help from a psychologist who knows how to treat it so that you can actually be happy in your life, and so obviously that you won't cause damage to others who don't understand it. And so yes, if you have been in a relationship or you are in a relationship, it is incredibly, incredibly traumatic because there's no rhyme or reason. And that's, I think, the worst of it. The worst thing is that there's no way to ever get to the place where it makes sense, because their behavior doesn't make any sense. And the worst part is, it's not that they have misunderstood what you've said or reacted to something and overblown it and seriously overreacted. It's not even the pain of being having somebody be mad at you or reject you. For me, it's that it usually, the devaluation phase would always follow deep, emotional, beautiful intimacy. And I came to realize that it's not just what psychologists tell you, which is that borderlines are walking around with this internal dialogue of self-criticism, self-hatred, and lack of worth, lack of self-worth. That, of course, is always going on all the time. And so they're constantly projecting onto everybody their own internal reality. So that's the one thing, of course, we know that intellectually, that this has nothing to do with you. They're projecting onto you. What they're accusing you of doing is how they feel about themselves on an unconscious level. And so you just happen to be what's in front of them at the moment where they, experience their horrendously challenging internal negative self-opinion of themselves. So the hardest part for me was the fact that I was actually loving her, and there were, in each instance, I was actually feeling nothing but love for her. And I had probably just done some amazing act of love, because we become martyrs into it, and we become so obsessed with wanting them to feel loved. At least I did. But the more that I tried to make her feel loved, the more she felt attacked. And so that was the most hurtful part, is not being seen, which of course is their reality. And so this is where you get the disease. It becomes infectious. You get infected with their lack of self-worth and their, very tenuous hold on their identity. What hurt the most was that it wasn't, that I actually had said or done something disrespectful, but that in the moment I had said or done something from a place of deep love and affection and desire for her well-being. And that would then be, something would be taken out of context. And the next thing I know, I'm being told that I'm literally the worst person that's ever walked the planet, and that my intention is to consciously seek her destruction, of her entire essence. And then, of course, their unwillingness to see that, their unwillingness to break from that. And I've never once, that's not actually true, entirely true. I have seen her in what seems to be states of lucidity where she very briefly understands. I know sometimes I can overreact, or sometimes I, change, as she said. And you're not the first person that has told me that it's been hurtful. But that is so short-lived, and there's no real remorse. There's no real understanding of the effects of it. There's just this seemingly brief lucidity that doesn't last, and then everything is fine for a little bit, and then of course they get triggered. But that's the hardest part, and this is the thing that still sticks with me. That what hurts the most is to be accused of, wishing her harm, when that's the last thing that I wanted for her. I loved her tremendously, and I wanted nothing but to make her happy and to feel good. And it was my entire focus, was how I could make her feel good and feel safe and feel loved. And, it's so frustrating, because sometimes it works and you're the best person in the world, but then literally it can be just a look. You have gas. That's it. Just don't look at me like that. I know what you're thinking. I know you're trying to do this, and you said that earlier, and you said this, and you're trying to destroy my self-esteem, and you're the most horrible person. I can have nothing to do with you. I can never call you. And then they break off all contact with you, and then, And the hardest part is you've just come from this amazing, loving connection to being hated for something you didn't do. It's just, that's the hardest part. And of course, we want to be loved, and we want to be accepted, and we make them the focus of our entire world. If we can just get their love again and have that loving, just them focusing on you and loving you and seeing you as if we could just get that one more time. It's horrible. So that's the worst part. The worst part for me is not that they're, these are all bad things. Not that they're incapable of accepting you, not that they're incapable of loving you back, not that the relationship never works, but that when they rage at you, when they devalue you, when they dismiss you, it's judging you for something that actually you didn't do. It would be one thing if you actually were feeling, just being, selfish or narcissistic and, not meaning to say or do something hurtful. That would be one thing. But when you're actually working really hard to make them feel loved, and that in and of itself turns into you're the worst person in the world, that was the hardest thing, and still is the hardest thing for me. So anyway, that's my experience on that.